Today, today we're going to talk about the moon in Capricorn, among other things, because that is where the moon is. Moon in Capricorn. Right now in the sky, wherever the moon is going to affect what you're experiencing right now. In Capricorn, it is making things hard, it is making things brutal, it is making things, you really just have to ruthlessly assert yourself. It's the struggle for survival. That's what Capricorn is, the survival of the fittest. And so that kind of atmosphere is going to be dominating events today, tomorrow, and a little bit of the day after, I think, because the moon generally spends about 2.5 days in a sign. So that's your moon in Capricorn. In order to understand these transits a bit better, you have to understand something about planetary rulerships. Planetary rulerships are basically every sign is ruled by a single planet. Aries is ruled by Mars, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, Libra is ruled by Venus, so on and so forth. So basically, the ruling planet and what the ruling planet is doing is going to affect what any planet in that sign is doing. So if you've got the moon in Capricorn, you're going to be wanting to look at what Saturn is doing to understand something about what the moon is doing in that sign. Right now, we've got Saturn in Aries. And as I've said before, Saturn in Aries is intense, it's hardcore, in a way different to Capricorn. It's more like the brutal truth, the uncompromising truth, the truth which is ugly, the truth which does not compromise to any extent with existing institutions, existing ways of doing things. It simply says, it turns up and says, this is the best way. This is the honest way. This is the way which is going to serve us best going forward. And again, it does not respect what has come before it. Capricorn, on the other hand, is very institutional, historical, traditional. It bases what it does on precedent or on some utilitarian expectation of a reward or a good outcome at the end of the process. So yeah, you might wonder how these things are contradictory. Well, ultimately, Saturn in Aries is taking Capricorn's deep urge to commit itself to some deep long-term process and driving it into that kind of Arian controversy. So Capricorn has a will to basically improve itself, to harden itself, to force itself out there confidently and carry out whatever task it's assigned itself. And with Saturn in Aries ruling that, of course, it is putting that kind of Capricornian discipline and drive and hardness and even inhumanity and coldness, just raw, brutal assertiveness behind the Aries drive to just say, okay, this is the best thing to do. This is the truth. What are you going to do about it? How are we going to change things? So on and so forth. So it's kind of it's a brutal, uncompromising atmosphere. Capricorn tends to prefer kind of like no risk, high effort investments. It tends to prefer, basically, it will play the long game. It will sacrifice and it will scrimp and save, and it will, there's the old dilemma, do you want 1 piece of candy today or 5 pieces tomorrow? Capricorn will always say 5 pieces tomorrow. It delays gratification. It is always looking towards the future. Aries, on the other hand, is always looking at the present, at the immediate truth. And it does not have any idea of the future, the past, whatever. It's just now, now, now. So, again, these things might seem contradictory, and to some extent they are. To a great extent they are. Capricorn, ruled by Saturn in Aries, does not have a lot of room to move in that domain, in that Arian domain. So Aries, Saturn Aries, natally, if you were born with Saturn Aries around 1997, 1998, you are somebody who is going to have trouble making long-term investments, sticking to plans. You tend to operate more in terms of just raw bursts of energy, start to finish, done in one go, and then you move on to something else. Capricorn, again, is in for the long haul. But still, those Capricornian traits can come through in that Aryan domain in a positive way. It is self-denying, it is very hardworking, and with that drive behind it, Saturn in Aries can achieve more. Whether you've got that natally or at the moment in the sky, you're going to find that, yeah. Here's another thing, Moon in Capricorn. Capricorn tends to rely on institutions. It tends to rely on conventions. That is Saturn. That is something that Aquarius and Libra also, as Saturnine signs, rely on. So Capricorn tends to rely on conventions, but Aries is totally unconventional. Aries is original. Aries is groundbreaking. That is what it wants to be. So a Capricorn moon or sun natally, or any planet in Capricorn, if it's ruled by Saturn in Aries, is not going to have any conventions to turn to. It is not going to have any precedent that it can refer to and say, you know, I have a right to this. You owe me this. It is really just going to have to go with the brutal truth. And an example of how this could work is just, you know, I am going to do this whether you like it or not. You have no power to stop me. This is more of an Aries trend. But with Capricorn, again, another element of Saturn, which is integral to Capricorn, is fronting, is clearly signaling who you are, what you're capable of, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, this clear signaling in terms of for getting a particular response, that is what Capricorn is going to do. And again, in the context of Aries, it is going to be doing that by just saying, you know, let's be honest, let's be real. I can stand here longer than you. I can, you know, dig in here longer than you and endure this longer than you. So just give in. Yeah, that's a rough example. And, you know, Capricorn and Aries have many facets. There are so many different experiences that you can have with the moon in Capricorn and with Saturn and Aries. They're going to unfold within particular boundaries that could not be exhaustively defined in the context of this video. But, yeah, what I've just described is a facet of that. So, I think I got a question there. Let me see if I can use this funky new interface to engage with people. Okay. Colibri Connect asks, I've noticed my alcohol tolerance has gone up since Saturn Aries, maybe even because Neptune is in Aries. Can you comment on this? I have never heard of those two things being associated in any way. Alcohol tolerance, again, there are always so many things going on in the sky at the same time. You know, there's 10 planets dancing around up there, making aspects to each other, doing various things all at the same time. And there have been a few transits that have been, you know, roughly coincident with Saturn Aries, Neptune Aries. We've had Mercury Pisces for the past 8 weeks, which has been god-awful, for reasons I'll get into soon. But yeah, I have no connection between Aries and drinking, except insofar as Aries might just say to itself, and insofar as Saturn in the sky in Aries might prompt you to just say, I like drinking. I want to drink. I don't care who has an opinion on it. I'm going to do it. So yes, that would be the only connection I could make. We have another question here, and please throw your questions at me. I love them. I love hearing them. That's what makes this fun for me. So, somebody called Fix This Dog asks, can you know it's the good times when you're in them? Well, yes, I would think so, because you would feel good about them. There is nothing particularly astrology related about that fact. But yeah, good times. Any time can be a good time. Transits don't determine whether you're having a good time or a bad time. It's got more to do with circumstance and with your attitude. Every transit has a good side. Moon Capricorn has a good side. In the same way as, just as we spoke about a few days ago on Saturday. Moon in Scorpio, it's a difficult place for the moon. It's not a very natural or happy place for the moon typically, and that's true natally and in the sky. You're going to find things come out during that time, things that are ugly, uncomfortable, unpleasant, things that you don't really want to be a part of or keep your hands on for too long. However, the upside of Moon in Scorpio, you can get really clear, deep satisfaction of your needs in a way that is not otherwise possible. You can do things that are scary to you and carry them off and get the satisfaction of doing that. You can vomit up all of this gunk that's in your system, things that you've been holding on to in your soul for too long that you've wanted to get rid of. There's many good sides to Moon Scorpio, so too with Moon Capricorn. Even though it's unforgiving, uncompromising, brutal, harsh, if you have genuinely put in the work to do well, to succeed in whatever field you're struggling to succeed in, you will feel it. You will feel a deep sense of accomplishment and perfection. And if you've ever climbed a mountain or done anything very difficult and long and strenuous and hard, you will feel that same Capricornian satisfaction, because these signs are not just something that is part of your natal chart. They're not just something that is part of you. These are the building blocks of the universe. And even if Capricorn is empty at some given point of planets, part of the universe is still made of Capricorn. Your career, any, again, different strenuous task, these are Capricornian phenomena, regardless of where the planets are, and they always will be. Your 10th house in your chart is connected to Capricorn. That is your career, that is your public profile, that is your worldly strivings, that kind of thing. So, yeah, you can feel that kind of deep, perfect satisfaction when the moon is in Capricorn. And if you've, kept all your ducks in a row, and if you've been organized and disciplined and good over the past month, and through whatever challenges Capricorn moon is throwing at you, you will get a reward. You will feel good. You will feel some feedback from that. You'll feel like Mr. Big Business. You'll feel like, your small business has made progress, that kind of thing. But yes, keep the questions coming. And for now, I'll comment on Mercury Pisces. Mercury, again, it's difficult in Pisces. It's not, in fact, it's the least comfortable place for any planet in any sign across the entire zodiac and through the entire solar system. Mercury and Pisces are very contradictory, and I've spoken about this on my Substack. And by the way, a brief comment on the Substack. I hate Substack. I don't want to be on there. I'm here now, probably going to do this 3 times a week. Wednesdays at 6 p.m., Fridays at 6 p.m., Sundays at 12 p.m. That's my plan so far. We'll see how it goes. But Substack, I truly hate it. I truly hate it. Anyway, yes. So Mercury in Pisces. Mercury is all about communication, connection, sense, sensibility, rationality, reason. Pisces is not. Pisces is about wordless, nameless, unspeakable revelation. Pisces is about everything that is too big or significant or sensitive or not for the masses, only for the initiated few. Everything that you can't put into words. It's cultish, cult phenomena. That's a Pisces thing. So Mercury in Pisces, connects these things. And there's, again, just as there's a good side of Moon in Capricorn, there's a good side of Mercury in Pisces, even though it creates a lot of difficulties. Mercury in Pisces can talk about the unspeakable. It occupies that exact border zone between the unspeakable domain of Pisces and the speakable domain of Mercury. It occupies the exact border zone of what is ready to become speakable, what is ready to be spoken for the first time. Another side of it is conversations that occur in secret. You know, you may be a priest, a confessor, figuratively or literally, if you've got Pisces, Mercury, Pisces. You're somebody who hears all of these things that can't be spoken in public, that can't be made clear to people, that you can't even really ever even admit to knowing or indicate that you know. Pisces has to be very, very sneaky. As I discussed last episode, Pisces is all about secret kind of hidden warfare, conflicts, how to get one over on somebody with the element of surprise or by outthinking them, by occupying a frame that is alien to them, hence which they cannot predict. You know, and again, if you've got the element of surprise, you basically won, all else being equal. So Pisces is all about that element of surprise. It is sneaky, it is tricky, it is secretive. Sometimes it has good reasons to do this. Sometimes it's just being sleazy and awful and nasty and criminal. You know, any kind of a sleazy wink or nod, or, you know, if you've seen Sopranos or something, the way they're always giving each other these greasy, knowing looks, that is Pisces. Paulie, in fact, Paulie Walnuts from Sopranos is Moon Pisces. And I love to be asked about characters from fiction because I study these things. I get the charts of the actors. I figured out a way of like very precisely getting the astrology for a particular character in fiction. So ask me about that. Ask me about any historical, fictional person or otherwise you might want me to investigate because I like looking into it. You know, I like the challenge. Anyway, yeah, Mercury Pisces, it can be cult-like. It's kind of like you really have to watch your words. And globally, and for the past 8 weeks, and for the coming 6 days or so, it's just been really hard to communicate. You have to watch your words. You know, with Pisces, an unwise word can just cause things to blow up and fall apart. It's so powerful. It's so heavy. You know, that's what Pisces is as a Jovian sign. Same thing with Sagittarius, although it's a bit different there. Similar principle. They're both anti-Mercurial, pro-Jovian signs. And Jupiter is heavy. Jupiter is heavy. In India, Jupiter is called Guru, you know, teacher. But Guru also means heavy. So Jupiter is everything that's heavy, everything that gives you pause, everything that cannot be casually or lightly talked about. That's your Mercury, everything that's casual, light, funny, simple, easy to comprehend, that kind of thing. And yeah, so for the past 8 weeks, it's just been god awful, you know. And neighbors, they're Mercury as well. I've had problems with my neighbors. Can't communicate with them, can't resolve issues in a straightforward way because to kind of pay them attention, this is another Pisces thing, to pay the thing attention or to give it any notice or awareness at all is just going to make it worse. You know, again, this is what Mercury is for. Mercury is about defining things, articulating them, communicating them, paying attention to them, and understanding what they're about. But Pisces deals with these info hazards. Pisces deals with things that you cannot pay attention to or acknowledge without empowering them, without releasing them in thoroughly negative ways sometimes. You know, when you've got Mercury in Pisces or Sagittarius, it's kind of like things that are said that cannot be unsaid. You know, don't say anything that we might both regret, that kind of thing. It's things which, once said, change everything. And now normally, Pisces has the tact, the sense to know what to communicate and to whom. But of course, when you've got a global transit, when you've got Mercury in Pisces globally for 8 weeks, we're just thrown into these circumstances where you just have to very silently and cleverly and sneakishly maneuver around the big issue, the elephant in the room, or, the sleeping tiger or whatever. Because if you do anything to deal with the problem directly, you will make it worse. It's like a Chinese finger trap, one of those things where you pull harder and it's just harder to escape. It just gets tighter. So Pisces deals with all those problems which you cannot deal with by getting in their nuts and bolts and taking them apart and understanding them and putting them back together. That's Virgo. That's what Virgo is really good at. Being the opposite sign to Pisces, it is, on one hand, the irreconcilable opposite, and on the other hand, it's kind of like an ideal marriage. Man and woman, they're fundamentally different, alien in some ways, but they also complete one another and make something more powerful than either individual person. So that's your Mercury in Pisces. Let's just take a look here. Oh, I've been completely missing the comments. I thought nobody was making comments. Oh, goody. Okay. Oh, God. It's Daniel Crawford. About the 6th house and how it relates to magic. How do the planets and signs affect magic? Well, this is not a subject I wish to discuss openly. So, yes, it's the 6th house in many ways. The 6th house is engineering. The 6th house, again, derives from Virgo, which we just discussed. And the 6th house is, it's all about taking things apart, putting them back together, understanding problems like, open heart surgery. You cannot fuck anything up. You cannot, leave a scalpel in someone. You cannot pick the wrong artery. You have to know where everything is and what it's doing at all times, or somebody is going to die. It's not like a Piscean problem where there's a sleeping bear in the same room and you have to just very quietly get out of there. It's nuts and bolts stuff. So to the extent that we, engineering, the idea of engineering can be broadened out to intentionally affecting change in the world by manipulating certain objects in a particular way. Magic, to some extent. But, we will not go into that. In any case, boom. George Washington had Moon Capricorn, Saturn Aries, says Joe, OY4QD. I know he had Saturn Aries. We discussed that last week. But I didn't know about Moon Capricorn. I believe Lincoln had Moon Capricorn. He was kind of a freakish individual. Capricorn can be this kind of superhuman thing as well. We discussed last week, it's trannies, it's bodybuilders, it's looks maxing. It's sort of inhuman, superhuman Iron Man perfection as, like pure crocodilian, caveman, elephant, beast of nature, rhinoceros kind of strength and power. I believe in India, Capricorn is not the goat, but the crocodile, something like that. It's fun to think about. But yeah, I had no idea that that's true of George Washington, and I would have to look into that to be certain. Anyway, JSRU2JZ, some very creative names here, asks, I just found out my moon is in Taurus 8th house. Is the 8th house really that crazy, generally speaking? It's taboo, it's occult, sex, among other things, I think, because it's derived from Scorpio, it's combat. I have a great friend with Moon Cancer 8th house, and he's obsessed with fighting. He's obsessed with combat, he's obsessed with crime in certain capacities that don't implicate him, we'll say, for certain. Yeah, it's, you're on the dark side of life to some extent, and there's some funky, interesting stuff there, but it's not necessarily easy. People who've had weird traumatic experiences growing up, because the 8th is the house of like trauma, among other things, opposite to the 2nd house, which is health and well-being. Makes sense, put that together. Yeah, people with moon in 8th typically have had pretty funky upbringings. It's a bit like moon Scorpio contact. It's a bit like having your moon in Scorpio or aspecting Scorpio. But you tell me, man. You tell me what's going on with you. I'd love to hear it. Oh, somebody is Bahahaha, says Rud by Director. Good for him. Good for him. And the moon in Taurus is a happy, healthy place for the moon. So good for you. God, I wish I had some way of getting charts up on the fly whilst I was doing this. Maybe I'll get some kind of Jamie or laptop or something next to me. In fact, I could do that. I might do that later. Anyway. Okay, what's this, buddy? TIY, U4I. Pisces, like Aquarius before it, is good at simulating things and fitting in, which helps with tact and sneakiness. Yes, that's an interesting point, even though I am... Yeah, it's an interesting point, TIY. Yeah. All of the signs kind of shade into each other. There's very definite delineations and distinctions between them, but neighboring signs have similarities. Pisces and Aquarius are very good at masking. Aquarius is the best at masking, the best at planning ahead in that respect. It has its public face and its private face. With Pisces, that distinction is blurred. Scrutiny and observation, surveillance indeed, is a Piscean matter. They're so omnipresent that you have to be acting on two levels. Ironically, one could say. This is why irony was such a big thing in the 2010s when we had Neptune in Pisces and, the coronavirus era. So, yeah, and think about how basically the internet is a big surveillance machine and we're all on it and so on and so forth. That's your Pisces. So yeah, with Pisces, it's like you can't really mask. You can't really have a public face because there is no privacy. You have to constantly be acting on two levels, imagining every possible outcome of everything that you're doing, looking like a certain acceptable thing until the very last moment where you become something else and you get the thing done and you slide through and you sleaze through and you get out clean or not, or you get imprisoned. Pisces is the sign of prison as well as these other things, which is interesting. I'll go into that later at some point. But yeah, Pisces is total surveillance and observation. So you've just got this inner world and you've got plausible deniability. Rather than a mask like Aquarius, you've got plausible deniability. This is the whole situationship thing. This is the whole kind of half in, half out Pisces thing. At any point you can say, oh no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. Again, this goes back to Pisces being anti-mercurial, averse to speaking, making things clear. It wants to remain ambiguous so that it has wiggle room. It's like a squid with its ink. It squirts the ink and it escapes. It gets out of there. So, Pisces is doing the wrong thing and it gets caught and it says, oh, this. Well, this was just something else. This was, I'm rehearsing for a play. I'm not gay. I'm just rehearsing for a play. There was that bit with Vito. Vito in Sopranos is Venus Pisces. The actor is Venus Pisces. And so he's got this weird kind of fucked up, Pisces is always getting inside your head. I believe Joe Pesci, who plays all the psychotic midgets in Martin Scorsese's films, is also Venus Pisces. And it's just this constantly smarter than you, fucking with you, getting you off balance, being the eye of the storm, surrounded by chaos and angst and terror. And it just knows better, it knows more, it sees more. And so it can ride that chaos to a good outcome. I remember there was a scene in Sopranos where, well, I won't spoil it. In any case, Vito is Venus Pisces. That's why. When he's caught being gay at a gay bar, he's just like, it's a joke. It's a joke. This leather getup, that's a joke. It's just a joke. And then he flees. This is another Pisces thing. They see trouble before it hits them and they get out of there and they're nowhere near it. Anything that might filthy or dirty or incriminate them, they're out of the picture before they can be placed at the scene. You know what I mean? It's a criminal sign. Not inherently, and it's not always bad. There's a good side too, but I feel that the bad side is neglected, and so I want to talk about it. So yeah, all of the water signs are criminal in some capacity. Cancer loves crime, really loves crime. I won't go into that fully. Scorpio is the most obvious and overt example of this, being freaky, creepy, taboo, whatever. But there's good sides to this. You need to be a little bit of a criminal. You need to have that potential for violence and chaos and anger to deal with evil, to deal with unrepentant evil. You need a little bit of that in yourself. And all of these water signs are always dealing with this dynamic, just like physical water in real life, of purity, contamination, purification, going back and forth, boiling. Again, as I said earlier, the universe is made out of the zodiac and the planets to a significant extent, very significant. The whole act of boiling something to purify it, that is Scorpio. The fact that Scorpions have black and white, high contrast vision, and that Scorpio as a sign is very judgmental, sees things in black and white. The universe is made out of the zodiac and the planets. It's very interesting. So let's see if we can get another question here. Okay, so here's a fun thing. Sometimes people in the comments will make claims about astrology that are not necessarily true. So in terms of this, just see what resonates with you. See what resonates with you. It could be true, it could not. Take it as an idea and run with it and see if you can find more evidence. Okay, so what do we got here? We've got this fellow. Who is it? Fellow or woman? We don't know. Goobertown, and I'm having some trouble, as you can tell, locating the chat. Okay, here it is. Goobertown says Taurus 8th equals gooning, destructive self-indulgence type stuff. I have Taurus 8th, and whenever Taurus transits come, I feel very sick and disgusted at the vice and indulgence and time wasting I see around me. So I would disagree. Taurus is connected with gooning, factually. I mean, if you look at the, you can get birth charts for anything, and they will all matter and work and be relevant. I got the birth chart out of curiosity some years ago for the gooning subreddit, goon caves, etc. And also just the fact that the concept came out in the past 7, 8 years, 9 years at this point, with Uranus in Taurus. Yeah, this kind of aimless self-indulgence and pure enjoyment is Taurian. And Taurus is frankly gross sometimes. It's a lunar sign. It exalts the moon, like Cancer is ruled by the moon. Anything connected with the moon is fleshy, gribbly, hits you deep in the gut, that kind of thing. Like, the name of this stream or podcast, Starbelly. That is a kind of a Cancer lunar thing. So yeah, I mean, what you would want to do in order to figure out if what Goobertown here has said is true, you would want to go and look at the charts of people who are really self-destructive. This is the descriptive side. You go and look at the charts of people who are self-destructive and self-indulgent in this way, and you see, do they have any Taurus? Do they have Taurus 8th? If not, there's no pattern. The other thing you would want to do is find people who, and this is the astrological side, not the descriptive side, find people who have Taurus 8th or Taurus placements and see, are they destructive and, self-indulgent? People with Mars Taurus. Is it Amy Schumer, that comedian, who just talks about, catching dick and whatever at a club or whatever, and just that kind of thing? Mars Taurus is a braggart, among other things. It's braggadocio, grandstanding, some extreme gains and losses in weight. That's another thing you'll see with Mars Taurus. Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, the actor Christian Bale, is Mars Taurus. And so, yeah, this is kind of a fun little detour on Mars Taurus, but why not? Mars Taurus, Mars is where the acute conflicts in your life occur, the kind of bang, ow, you hit me kind of conflicts, figuratively or literally. In Taurus, it's got to do with self-esteem, because the moon has to do with self-esteem. Same thing with Mars Cancer. They get deep attacks on their self-esteem made by people, circumstantially, whatever. But then, as a reaction to that, they build a lot of self-esteem. You know, Mars is extremity. So Mars in a lunar sign, like Taurus or Cancer, has an extreme degree of self-esteem. Still, Patrick Bateman, you know, I mean, people in the film, he's really smug. And here's another thing about Mars and Taurus. When they are violent sometimes, they will attack defenseless people. Jimmy Savile, the British pedophile and entertainer, formerly, now dead, was accused of harming comatose people, fondling them, stuff like that. It's like a snake eating a frozen mouse. You know, again, yeah, if this is grossing you out, this is Mars Taurus. This is a lunar Mars and a lunar sign. It is gross. It is extremity and pop and bang and whiz and whatever occurring in that very tender and intimate domain of the moon. So it's going to gross you out. But yeah, Patrick Bateman. And yeah, people are always shitting all over him and forgetting him. And who are you? Oh, yeah, you're that guy. But it's not him. And his business card, the whole fiasco with that. Yeah, you get challenges to your self-confidence with Mars Taurus. Anyway, what do we got here? Sam Hyde, 6'9", and Klaus Kinski, the actor, are all Mars Tauruses. Think of Sam Hyde. Trolling. How does he troll? He just sits there for an hour or two, or, 20 minutes, or until he's thrown out or whatever. Being annoying. He brags constantly. You remember the Candyman thing. He has an extreme voice. That is Mars Taurus as well. Kanye West has Mars Taurus. Again, a lot of bragging. Astrology is a science. You can correlate specific personal traits with specific placements consistently. It is a science and it should be treated as one. So yeah, Hitler, Mars Taurus, famous for his voice, big, extreme, blah, 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 voice. Extremely stubborn. Mars Taurus, Alex Jones, an extreme voice. He's always screaming and yelling. It's a very powerful Mars voice, Taurus. Jordan Peterson, Mars Taurus, not a powerful voice per se, but a very noticeable one. Powerful, but not in an overt way. It is a piercing voice. Oh, I'm cutting out pretty bad. Sorry to hear that. Maybe I'll see if I can fix that somehow. Oh, there's probably no way for me to do that. Clavicular, Mr. Looksmaxing in the news is Mars Taurus. And by the way, if I do cut and you want me to repeat something, please say so, and I will. Anyway, Mars Taurus, we're getting a good picture of Mars Taurus here. So what do we got? Yeah, Klaus Kinski molested his daughter. Mars Taurus, that's the negative side of Mars Taurus. It's not all of them, not even most of them, not many of them, but you see these kinds of attacks on the defenseless, bullying. I even think, although I'm not certain, that the guy who plays Biff Tannen in Back to the Future, the archetypal 80s bully character, is a Mars Taurus. But I will have to look into it. Anyway, yeah, Alex Jones, Kanye West, Jordan Peterson, all of these people. Jordan Peterson, his whole thing is he said no, and he stuck his feet in, and he didn't do it. He didn't say the pronouns, whatever. So, this is interesting. Joe OY4QD, to what extent does Taurus have to do with energy like oil, gas, nuclear? And how much is that a general outgrowth of the aspect, the side of Taurus concerning possessions? Yes, Taurus is resources. Now, all of the signs interact, so parts of reality are kind of baseline, in a difficult way, a tense and turbulent kind of way. but in a very real way. And you can see the fruits of this in the world. You know, Aquarius is geopolitics, among other things. I can get into that at another time, just ask. Taurus is resources, so put them together. I think, no, I won't comment until I've looked into that more deeply. No, cutting out right now, unfortunately. How disappointing. Oh dear. Okay, well, I'll repeat it then. Ugh. Okay, Aquarius, hopefully I can fix this one day. I just don't have a good Wi-Fi connection right now. If anyone has any advice, please tell me in the comments. I would like to fix this. Anyway, hopefully I haven't been cutting out too much otherwise. But yeah, Aquarius, long story short, Aquarius is geopolitics. How relate to each other in the most deep and consistent and rigid way. Taurus is resources. I cut out again. Shit, that's no good. Yeah, Aquarius square Taurus. Aquarius is geopolitics. Taurus is resources. Anything connected with resources, money, anything you can hoard, anything that has value, that's going to be connected with Taurus. Yeah, I'm using the YouTube app, so why would they do that? I don't know. And here's the thing, it's Mercury Pisces right now. The fact that I'm breaking up, the fact that I'm getting bad reception is Mercury Pisces. And I would be very curious to know if that thing I just said came through. Because typically Mercury Pisces will permit meta commentary on itself and on events. So there you go. Hopefully it improves soon, and if it keeps getting bad, maybe I'll stop the stream until Friday. Anyway, okay. Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky both have Taurus 8th moon. Well, Bill Clinton's a criminal as far as I know. There you go. And it's all very money-oriented, as I suppose much crime is. In any case, is there really a big difference between being a Libra rising and a Libra sun in terms of traits and situations? I'm a Libra rising ruled by Venus in Scorpio in the 2nd house, asks JS-RU2JZ. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Libra rising is going to be, as I said last time, straightforwardly diplomatic, pleasant, kind, artful, polite, cultured, that kind of thing. I'm okay, you're okay. That's the Libra cliche. They want to build rapport. They want to give you something and get something back. That's your basic Libra rising. Again, your ascendant, your rising sign is just your default manner of engagement with the world, and vice versa. The world's default manner of engagement with you. It's your kind of interface with the world. Libra sun is going to tell you about your values and about your sense of self and your own identity. And the sun is weak in some ways in Libra, conventionally. Again, as I said with Mercury Pisces, moon cap, there's upsides. 1 in 12 people have Libra sun and they're not walking around burning to death. They're not walking around in flames, so it can't be that bad, can it? They're some of the most pleasant people I ever meet or deal with. They're very charismatic, kind, artful, talented artists. And again, with the sun, yeah, that's going to be the core, the mainspring of your being. The mainspring of your being. So somebody with Scorpio rising and Libra sun might, meet the world as a very intense person, but then behind all of that, they want to build rapport. They want to understand other people. They want to kind of spin a narrative and get you in on it, that kind of thing. They want to sell some idea to you. So yeah, the ascendant, that's going to be mostly the first impression that you give others, the most obvious thing about you in some ways. And then your sun is going to be the core motive around which everything else revolves, to which everything keeps coming back. Like the sun in the sky in real life. Again, you can make some very interesting analogies there. So, what have we got here? Yep, somebody else observes communication has been weird in the past day. That's because the moon was in Sagittarius. And when any planet is in Sagittarius, things become a bit more Sagittarian. They become a bit more weird and a bit less easy to articulate and talk about. So yes, you know what? I think I'm going to end the stream now. We'll do another one on Friday at 6 p.m. And I'm going to try and figure out how to improve the quality of the stream so that I'm not breaking up and stuff. Anyway, I think we got a lot of good work done today. You can leave your comments, you can subscribe, you can like the video. Wow. I don't know how any of that works, but everyone keeps saying it, so I guess it's good for my videos. And yes, Calibri Connect, final comment. Pisces Mercury. I am a Pisces Mercury natally, and communications have been great for me. Well, when you Mercury Pisces natally and Mercury's moving through Pisces, that's your Mercury return. And that means that, yeah, all of your Mercury faculties, communicating, articulating, so on and so forth, are going to be boosted. That is true for anyone with Mercury Pisces. In any case, yes, goodbye. I'll see you next time. Figure out how to stop.